Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm your host, Couper Moorhead. Welcome back to After the Buzzer, where we are talking about the Miami Heat's loss, 116-107, to the Portland Trail Blazers. The Heat were down by as much as 27 points before making things somewhat interesting in the fourth quarter because Portland went cold. No Tyler Hero for the first time this season. Bam Adebayo and Kel start together for the first time this season. Heat dropped back to 21-21. We're going to talk mostly today about Miami's defense and sort of the confluence of events, all the categories come together to make for a bad defensive night for Miami, a night they probably would rather have back, a night that really didn't have them looking like themselves on that end. And then we'll talk about Bam and Kel and how that pairing looked in their first start together and, what that projects for the future. So first things first, the defense. We've been talking about this a little bit all season, but sometimes the three-pointer giveth, sometimes the three-pointer taketh away. And against the Spurs on Sunday, remember, the Heat opened that game 0 of 8 from 3, and they found themselves down double digits. And then just like that, they go on a 15 of 20 run from 3, make a big run, blow the game wide open, and there you go. Well, against Portland, Miami opened 7 of 9 from 3. Everything, the offense was flowing, the shots were falling, everything looked great. Even without Tyler, they were getting their threes. And then they proceeded to miss 19 threes in a row. So credit Portland's defense. I don't think people look at Portland's record. They're number 13 in the West, and they probably don't think of them as a very talented team. But Portland has talent, for sure. And they have a lot of big, athletic bodies, and they can play defense when they kind of put it all together and everything coalesces on the right night. So Miami missed 19 threes in a row. Some of them, anytime you miss that many in a row, some of them are going to be open shots, the shots that you usually make. They just didn't make them. But a bunch of those shots were still short. There were some air balls in there because Portland was getting Miami to play up against the shot clock. Their threes were contested. I mean, even Duncan Robinson was Miami's best shooter tonight by far and made some unbelievably tough shots. But he had a hand right in his face on some of them too. Portland just had good attention to detail, and without Tyler Hero, who has been the engine of the offense this season, it was a little tough sledding for Miami in their half-court offense, especially when they weren't getting much in transition. More on that in a second. So, look, and then, of course, the Blazers get hot from 3. They made a bunch in the third quarter. They go up by as much as 27, like we said, and then, the threes flip. Portland starts going cold. They were 1 of 11 from 3 in the fourth quarter, 0 of 6. On corner threes, which are shots, corner threes are usually, unless it's a late clock, kind of a tough contested look. A lot of them are going to be catch-and-shoot looks. Portland had their chances to just hold the lead. They didn't quite do it because they couldn't make those threes. Miami's young guys. Spo just left the young guys in the game for the most part, although now Kel's a starter and Duncan's a starter, so some starters are in the game. And Portland goes cold. Miami had their chance. Jeremy Grant gets the free throw line a couple times. Anthony Simons has a nice and one. That was pretty much all it took to see off the game. When you're playing from 20 points down in the fourth quarter, you need a lot of things to go right. They had some things go right, not everything. That's how you end up with a loss as you did. The more important thing maybe tonight beyond the threes, which the threes are always going to dominate the analysis, whether or not it feels reductive or simplified or anything. That's what threes are that important. But Portland also didn't commit a turnover in the first half. Their first turnover didn't come until just before the 8-minute mark of the third quarter. That in itself is incredibly rare for any team not to commit a turnover in the first half. It's also rare coming from Portland, who commits the second most turnovers in the league. And then it's also rare for a Miami team who Miami's defense really, their scheme, their philosophy, everything is designed with the intention of being disruptive, with being aggressive against drives, with swiping away at balls, with getting in passing lanes. That's who they want to be on defense. So when they're not forcing turnovers, especially against a younger, more turnover-prone team like Portland's, their numbers at least say they have been this year, if Miami's defense isn't doing that, that's a sign that their defense is not working as intended. So with Portland not forcing turnovers as well, Miami isn't getting out in transition because you're not forcing any live ball turnovers. You're not getting any steals. You're not getting easy offense that way. And then Portland, even though Miami also didn't commit a lot of turnovers, Portland was very aggressive getting downhill. They had 21 fast break points. Another thing that Miami focuses on, takes a lot of pride in, is their transition defense. Well, Portland, even off some long rebounds, some misses, they were still pushing really hard, beating Miami down the floor and getting some easy transition scores. That's part of why they pushed that lead up as high as 27. So Portland's offensive rating only finished at 122.1, which is really good, but that would be number one in the NBA for the season, but just barely. It's not like they had this blowout offensive game, mostly because they went cold in the third quarter on some decent opportunities from the corners. If Portland had had a more normal offensive fourth, the offensive rating might have pushed to 130 or so. It didn't, but that's what it is. And let's just finish this off with what Spo had to say about the defense, because I think he delivered the message pretty much as well as anybody could.
We mentioned that at halftime. We didn't force one turnover. We had 0 turnovers, a ton of drives, in transition, just attacking the half court versus our man or zone. We're at our best when we're disruptive. Again, you don't need analytics to know when we're at our best. You can see it, you can feel it, you get inspired by it, and through 3 quarters, that wasn't it.
Okay, so the bigger picture thing that goes beyond just this game tonight is that Eric Spoelstra saw how Kel, Ware, and Bam Adebayo played together and how successful it was against the Spurs the other day when they were plus 23 in 13 minutes. As we said then, if he sees something that's working, he's not going to just put that back in his pocket. He's going to go with what works until he's given a reason not to. And, hey, he just went straight to it. Let's just start him, see what happens. And earlier on in the game, looked pretty good because, again, they started 7 of 9 from 3. But today they played 13 minutes again. That might feel low because they started together, but Bam didn't play, in the fourth quarter really. Bam only played 22 minutes. And their total numbers together aren't always going to be super high because Spo seems to want to have one of them on the floor at all times, so he's going to stagger, their minutes. Bam comes out first, Kalel is at center, Bam comes in, Kalel comes out. So after they start, then they really don't get to play together again, at least in this game, until the end of the second quarter. Then they play more minutes at the beginning of the third. There wasn't much of a reason to get them back together after that. So you might see more than 13 minutes in the future, but that's kind of why the number was relatively low tonight. And in 13 minutes last night, as depending on whenever you're watching this, in 13 minutes they were -5 tonight. Heat shot 40% from 3, 4 of 10 with those 2 on the floor. Blazers were 4 of 8 from 3. Those 3-point numbers are always important, as we'll always say when you're discussing single game, small sample lineup numbers. So the shooting was relatively equal. Miami's offensive rating was 103.8, which is pretty low with those 2 on the floor. Their defensive rating is 128. It's not that great, again, but that's you're dealing with 13 minutes, and when you're -5, that's what it's going to look like. It was a little interesting that between the 2 of them, they had 0 assists. I think part of that's a function of the Heat just not making threes because especially Bam, a lot of his assists are going to be creating threes for others. Tyler Hero also didn't play, so the Miami's offense wasn't really getting Portland's defense in scramble mode very much other than a couple nice downhill passes. Duncan Robinson had a really nice one to Kalel Ware for quite a dunk where he took off pretty far, and, man, he makes some things look incredibly easy. And, and Kalel, when Miami made that run in the fourth quarter, he was on the floor. He's shown of late in the past few weeks, he's had some really good performances when Miami's been in a late hole and trying to come back. And, people refer to that time as garbage time, but when you're a guy like Kalel, who's a rookie, or any of the other Heat's undrafted players, Pell Larson got back in the game in the rotation at the end of this game when they were making their comeback, and he had a couple shots, had an and one. Those young guys are trying to earn minutes. And traditionally in the NBA, you don't always get minutes thrown at you, so you have to make the most of whatever you get. And if whatever you get sometimes is when you're down late in the fourth quarter, you still got to show your coach what you can do. You still got to play hard. Ware has done that. He's been playing through the finish line in a lot of these games in the past few weeks when the Heat have, been playing uphill in fourth quarter. So credit him for that. And otherwise, he finished with 20 points on 17 shots, 2 of 6 from 3, 15 rebounds, 2 blocks. As we've said before, there is in between play development that needs to happen with him, seasoning that needs to happen. That's very normal for a rookie center. There's a lot of things to account for. The game is happening really fast. I think he's been caught up to speed as things have gone along, especially compared to when he was playing in November. But what you still see with Kel sometimes are these bursts of athleticism. And I'm not just talking about, the tomahawk dunks or the shot blocks, the highlight stuff. I'm talking about the stuff, the connective tissue in possessions where, like today, he split a double team with the dribble, which you don't see centers his size do it very often. And he looked, even though like he was getting through some physicality, he did it pretty smoothly. And he did it with, good footwork. He has a grace to his athleticism. It's not a stiff athleticism. He's pretty fluid. He makes plays with the ball. He gets, he finishes going downhill with an eye on where the defenders are. Yeah, sometimes he gets stopped a little bit before the rim before he gets into his comfortable, landing zone or his takeoff zone. And like any center, then he gets stood up, and then there's maybe an awkward finish or two here or there. Same thing Bam dealt with his rookie year. Bam took 1 or 2 years to really catch up to how to finish against guys his size in this league. Kel is dealing with that a little bit too, but man, you just see the way his athleticism translates to certain these flashes here and there, which is really what you want to be seeing from a rookie center. And it just pops. It really pops. So whether or not Miami is always winning his minutes, whether or not he and Bam together are always a plus, we're going to see how that plays out, as the season progresses and as Spo uses them more. Not going to make any conclusions right now. But where is popping in the ways you want to see from him? The shooting has been there for the most part so far. He's making these athletic plays. We'll see how the offense works. We talked on Sunday about how Spo kind of was more comfortable with the defense with him and Bam together than he was with the offense. And we'll see how everything coalesces. You're not going to make any judgments tonight without Tyler Hero. That's just how it is. It's a rough night. Miami will probably wish they had this one back. They probably wish they had a better defensive effort. They probably wish they made a few more threes. But that's the NBA. You're going to have games like this. For now, the important development is that Spo seems to be committed to playing those two big guys together and seeing what the team can get out of them. And that's the storyline. That's the narrative of the team, right now on the court. See how it plays out. That's all for now. The team is about to go on a road trip. We will see you when they get back. Thank you for joining us on After the Buzzer. I am Couper Moorhead, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. Take care. Goodbye.